Inkosi of the Hegebe Clan, honorary president of Contralesa and the deputy minister of Justice and Correctional Services. Let's thank you for making the time this morning.
Good morning.
How did you hear of the news of the passing of Isilo Samazulu?
Well, I heard it on social media. There's a WhatsApp group of leaders of Contralesa, of which I'm part. And that's where I saw the statement issued by Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi. And we're all shocked when we heard the news, naturally. We're aware that he was ill in hospital for an unduly long time, but had hoped that he would come out safe and healthy. So we're devastated as the institution of traditional leadership, as the people of South Africa, in fact, as a whole, especially those who appreciate our African identity, our cultures, and traditions. He was a symbol of all of that. He was not just the king of the Zulu, he was the king of all the people of South Africa, just as any other king is the king of all tradition, of all people, in terms of our culture. He was, as I say, the embodiment of the institution of traditional leadership, because he didn't doubt himself. He was assertive and he was proud of who he was, something that inspired a lot of us to be proud of our own, as I say, traditions and values. He was a modern traditional leader. He could mingle with any of the modern political elites, and true to form, he was above them, as culture dictates that no one is above a traditional leader in various ways. He used his position, as has been said by Inkosi Minga earlier on, to develop his people. He was a farmer of note. He was an agriculturalist. He was a fierce defender of the land of the Zulu, land that was bequeathed to him by his ancestors. As you know, that every traditional community that has land, that land was fought for by our ancestors together with their people. So the fact that now we're in a democracy means that we need to be more vigilant as traditional leaders to defend our culture, to defend our languages, to defend our land, most importantly. So he was that kind of a leader. We're confident that when he stood up to speak for his people, he was speaking not only for his people, the Zulu, but for all other people who are in a position similar to that of his own people, the Zulu. So indeed, we have lost a lot. He unfortunately follows a number of other kings in the recent past. One of them being his own sister, the Queen of Makgakgabe, having been preceded by the king of the Xhosa, Uzwelonke, and lately a number of other traditional leaders, King of the Pedi, his cousin, King Mamburu, also died, and that of the Amashangana recently, and many others. We are not sure, because we believe that nothing happens by chance, as to whether there's something that we need to do that is required of us by our ancestors, because we are on the back foot as traditional leaders. We thought that our ancestors and our God would be on our side to ensure that traditional leaders who are as strong as King Zwelithini would remain with us for long, until the transition from post-apartheid to a real free South Africa is attained. So much has not been attained by our people, mostly because the institution of traditional leadership has not been granted its full and rightful position in the running of the affairs of the people of South Africa. So much of what is enjoyed by some of those who live in the urban areas is not enjoyed by our people. We have our land lying fallow, and yet the state is there to assist us, ensuring that our lands are made suitable for productive use. And as you know, a number of the people who are destitute in the in the informal settlements come from our areas. They leave the poverty that is there. Some of them, we as government try to assist them by providing them with housing. And yet we should be concentrating on what they need in their areas. So that if we have tractors, we have irrigation systems, we have fencing material, we are able to make sure that at all times we use our land productively, we produce food for ourselves and also for the market. So there are so many things that government should be doing, which King Zwelithini was advocating by way of working together with traditional leaders to ensure that the freedom that we have, that our forefathers fought for, is enjoyed fully by everybody else. The problem or the issue of social grants is not something that really our people are proud of. Our people are a proud people. They want to earn what they have. They want to be able to produce their own food. They want to be able to build their own homes for their families and so on. And I think that is what he was advocating, King Zwelithini. I had occasion to be with him when he went to install traditional leaders in Zululand. And he was a generous person, wise, giving proper advices to those who are getting into the shoes of their fathers and so on. It was really a blessing and a pleasure to be in his company. He didn't have any airs or compass or anything like that. But he was proud and assertive and a true traditional leader in the true sense of the word. We sympathize with his family, with the people of Zululand, and also the people of South Africa as a whole for what has happened, because his loss is not just that of his own immediate family, but a loss to the entire African people of South Africa. Of course, even beyond the borders of South Africa, in the continent, he met a lot of other traditional leaders who would visit some of them, others would visit him, and he shared a lot of experience with them. And he showed that experience by ensuring that his own people are in a position to produce what they need by themselves. As I say, we are at a loss for words for what has happened.
The depth of your own leadership and your pain comes through with all the things that you've been saying. And it's at this point that I'd like to welcome SABC One viewers who are joining us at this juncture. We were talking earlier to Professor Ushaugele Ngubane, who is the chairperson of the Zulu Royal Household Trust. And he was speaking about protocols in terms of the announcement of the passing of a king. You're a king yourself. How do you feel about protocol having to be broken in this instance where the announcement was made immediately and not waiting until a new installation has been concluded?
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm not a king. I'm Inkosi, which is a rank lower than that of the king. These days, news travels rather very fast. And I think it was proper that Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi issued the statement in the manner and at the time that he did, so that there's no confusion and there's no misleading of people as to what actually happened. Of course, the ideal is that the announcement of the passing of the king is done when there's certainty as to who is going to be his successor, because the throne should not be left vacant for too long. Immediately he passes on. Traditionally, when it is followed to the letter, a successor is appointed and called upon to sit on that throne, so that the nation at all times has a leader. Now, as I say, these days, social media does not respect protocol and so on. But it's important for people to know what has happened. But I'm confident that the Zulu Royal House will be in a position to determine the transition, who's going to be in the position that was occupied by His Majesty. And I don't think they will be in a position where there would be a squabble as to who should be succeeding him and so on. Because these things are supposed to be planned for in advance, even when death is not necessarily imminent.
Thank you so much for correcting me there earlier on. But you were talking about his involvement not only within the Zulu nation, but nationally and regionally and continentally. How are we supposed to, how is the nation supposed to mark this time? What is the significance of this particular passing at this time in the life of South Africa?
Yeah, you see, the ideal of a United Kingdoms of South Africa has not yet been realized. Because in essence, as I said, a traditional leader is not just a traditional leader of his people. If you come across a traditional leader and you need assistance, he is expected to give it to you regardless of whether you are actually living in his land or not. So ideally, when a traditional leader passes on, everybody in the country should be in mourning in various ways. Initially, it's supposed to be a year-long period of mourning where there are no festivities that are to take place, to the extent that in the past, the land was not going to be tilled. But then we modernized. We adapt to the conditions that obtain. So, as was the case after the death of the king of the Xhosa people had to be in mourning for a period of a year. So it will be expected, therefore, that the Zulu people will be expected to mourn for a period that is determined by the culture of the Zulu people. So, but essentially, the mourning is something that occurs on its own because of how you feel about the person who's passed on. But at the same time, because the person whose death is mourned is a leader, so the people that are directly under his leadership will be expected to express their mourning, their grief on the passing of King Zwelithini. So it's up to the royal household to inform the people as to what exactly is expected of them. As I say, we are striving as the traditional leaders of South Africa for the country that is now called the Republic of South Africa to be correctly termed the United Kingdoms of South Africa, because every piece of land that constitutes South Africa is originally a piece of land belonging to a kingdom. So therefore, at some stage, when we have done with experimenting with the ways of the European colonizers in our modern democracy, we shall go back to the basics and strive to rule this land in the manner that the God of our ancestors had decreed, which is a rule under the institution of traditional leadership, supported by people who have leadership qualities, such as politicians and others.
So the other question that one has in mind at this time is the process of burial. This is a king, it's no ordinary citizen. Is it too early to be talking about that?
Yeah, well, because everybody will be talking about it. Nonetheless, I don't think there's anything amiss in people speculating, but what is going to be important is for the royal family to inform the nation as a whole, that is the nation of South Africa, what is to be expected of regarding the burial of the king. As you said, it's no ordinary individual. There are rituals that are performed, rituals that are to be known to the inner circle within the family, rituals that are to be known to the advisors and counselors to the king, and also rituals that are to be known to the traditional leaders and, of course, government in these days. So it's going to be quite an involved system that will have to be, an elaborate system that will have to be followed. But there are people who are best placed by custom to do all of that.
Let's thank you so much for your time today. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, thank you so much for allowing me for this opportunity. Well, of course, I would like to convey personally now my condolences to the family. I know the queens, I know the children, daughters and sons. I know, of course, Prince Mangosuthu Buthelezi personally for a long time. We fought together for the recognition of the institution of traditional leadership. And we truly are sad at what has happened, but we are confident that God, the God of the Zulu, is going to come through for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Inkosi Phathekile Holomisa, there giving his message of condolences.